Hello guys, so today we're going to be looking at a very exciting game that was played at the Kenya National Chess Championship. This was in the ladies section and it was between the two heavyweights, or maybe the two top seeds of the tournament. WFM Sasha Mongeli against WCM Joyce Nyaruai, who I'm sure know a lot about each other. So yeah, this was a very interesting game in all respects. In my opinion, the person who won this game could have gone or actually went on to win uh, the tournament, because then I don't think there was really anyone else who was really causing enough problems to the both of them. They were actually playing incredible chess, both of them. I watched some of their games on day one, and it was just beautiful how good they were playing. So it was really a matter of who was going to win when they actually met. So this game was played in round 6, and crazy game. Let's just see how it went. So pawn to d4 by Sasha, and now knight to f6 by Joyce Nyaruai. Pawn to c4, trying to invite black into playing some Queen's Gambit or Nimzo Indian lines, but here Joyce Nyaruai played pawn to g6 and employed the King's Indian. So pawn to f3, going into some samish variations, bishop to g7, and now pawn to e4, taking the complete center. Then now pawn to d6, knight to c3, pawn to c6, and now bishop to e3 by Sasha Mongeli. Pawn to b6, just continuing with some sort of a plan, of a development plan, some idea of the King's Indian. I have no idea what things are usually played in these lines because I rarely play them. But now queen to d2, continuing the development. Bishop to a6, also bishop to b7 is a playable move, but I think bishop to a6 is actually a more testing move. You want to put as much pressure as you can on the c4 pawn and maybe find some way of attacking it. But here Sasha played bishop to d3, just completing the sort of samish variation structure with the pawn on f3, a very important pawn in this position, because then knight to g4 cannot be played to grab one of the bishops. So knight b d7 by Joyce, continuing the development, and here knight g to e2 by Sasha, and queen to c7. Both players not yet castling, just trying to see, or trying to wait and see who's going to show her hand earlier than the other. So rook to c1 by Sasha. This, I think, was a concession, and it's already a decision that I'm not going to castle on the queen side. So Joyce Nyaruai also does the same, plays rook to d8, and here castles by both players. Nothing too crazy. And knight to g3 by Sasha. Knight to g3, a very good move. We are preparing maybe bishop to e2, and maybe preparing pawn to f4 at some point, even pawn to f5. And with the addition of the knight on g3, I think the knight landing on f5 is actually a very dangerous idea. So king to h8 here by Joyce Nyaruai, a very important move, or maybe it's a prophylactic move, but it's a very important move in many King's Indian setups, because then you want to maybe at some time play pawn to f5, and you don't want this diagonal to be such a big problem in this line. So bishop to e2 here by Sasha, preparing maybe pawn to d5 at some point, and now knight to g8, preparing the idea of playing pawn to f5, pawn to f4 by Sasha, and pawn to e5 by not e6, but pawn to e5 by Joyce Nyaruai. So f takes on e5, d takes back, and now pawn to d5. Knight to f6, realizing an extra attack on the queen, so the queen has to move. Queen to c2, and now bishop to c8, maybe trying to reroute it, maybe also supporting the idea of playing knight to g4 at some point. Very practical ideas from both of them. And now pawn to b4 by Sasha. Sasha wants to play on the queen side, and she wants to be fast to play her plan, because normally black usually attacks. Sorry about that. So normally black attacks on the king side, and white in turn wants to counter attack on the queen side, form some sort of a center, a very beautiful center, and try and cause many problems as possible. So here queen to e7 was played. Queen to e7 was played by black, and now queen to a4. So in this position, queen to a4 was played, but there's so many other ideas that are possible in this position. An example is what happens after d takes on c6, because Joyce Nyaruai offered that pawn. So is it really grabbable? And the idea with queen to e7 is maybe queen takes on b4, trying to exchange the pawns and leave white with these doubled c pawns, and maybe trying to say that the position is not quite playable for white. But on the contrary, we play here pawn to c5, and you're going to have a brilliant position. If b takes on c5, we can even play knight to b5, attack this pawn on e7, and if the pawn is moved, you can still go knight to a7, and you can see with this arrow that we're attacking the pawn on c5, which will in turn be forking the queen and the rook, and also the knight on c8 is being attacked, and it doesn't really have good squares that it can jump into. So this is an idea. I think, I am not too sure if Sasha calculated it or even considered it, but it's a playable move in this position. So queen to a4 by Sasha Mongeli. She instead went directly to put more pressure on this pawn on c6, while also defending a pawn on b5. And here c takes d5 was played, c takes d5, and now bishop to g4. Bishop to g5 was played, pinning the knight, and now bishop takes on e2, knight takes back, and rook to c8, challenging the open c file that wasn't played in the game. So rook to c8 was played, challenging the control of this rook on this open c file, and Sasha immediately played rook to c6. The idea is that if you take, we just take back, and we have this crazy control of the center, crazy grip of the center, and we're going to bring the other rook to c1 and aid our pawn in pushing to promotion. At some point, if we even manage to push our pawn to c7, we can grab the pawns on a7 and b6 and have a completely winning position. So here queen to d7 was played by Joyce Nyaruai, and now pawn to b5, just adding more, or maybe anchoring that rook really strongly on c6. Knight to g4 was played, trying to exploit the positioning of this bishop on g4. But I actually think this bishop would have been, it could be better to have been traded at this point. Maybe instead of playing rook to c8, maybe play something like bishop to h6 and challenge the control of this bishop, because this bishop is actually a very powerful bishop that white has here, and black's bishop on g7 is actually doing nothing. So trading these bishops would have been essential, because then the bishop on g7 just stares at his own pawns, and it's not really it's not going to be really easy to actually try and create some space, or try to create a diagonal for that bishop on g7. So it's going to be really tricky. So instead, rook to c8 was played, rook to c6, queen to d7, pawn to b5, and now knight to g4, trying to maybe create something. Pawn to h3 was played, and now pawn to f6. Also pawn to h6 I think would have been a better move, or maybe equally as good. Now pawn to f6, it's does something, I think, or maybe what I should really say is pawn to h6 and pawn to f6 do the same thing. Let's say that. So bishop to d2, and now knight 4 back to h6. The knight that was being attacked going back to h6, and now bishop to b4, just maneuvering this bishop beautifully, and now it sits on a much more dangerous diagonal than it was before. So knight to e7 by Joyce Nyaruai, just pinning yourself, and also at some point maybe trying to threaten the rook on c6. And here just rook f to c1 was played by Sasha, trying to dare black to actually trade on c6, which is going to be really bad for black. Now knight h2 was played back to g8, and here pawn to d6 by Sasha Mongeli, just striking the center. Knight takes on c6, and this is after b takes back. This is a sort of a very common sacrifice that is usually played, or that you can actually look out for in your games. A rook for a knight is actually okay if you get some sort of a compensation. That's usually rook for bishop or rook for knight. It's usually a very acceptable trade that you can try and find in your positions, and a game that you can maybe try and find that is going to maybe teach you about this is There was a game I was studying a while back. It's a Botvinnik game. I can't remember who exactly, but it was, I think, from 1948. Botvinnik was playing black, and it was a very creative game. And he played rook to d4 at some point, allowing knight takes on d4, and he was getting this really strong grip at the center. So the rook and knight trade is actually a very good trade that you can try and find in your games. So queen was played to f7, just moving away from that attack, and now pawn to d7, simultaneously attacking both rooks. So here you have to give back one of them. Nyaruai played rook to d8, rook f to d8, and now after pawn takes rook, rook takes back, queen to a6 was played, targeting the rook. Queen to e6 was played here in return, queen to b7, and now rook to f8. Bishop to f8 rather. Bishop to f8 was played, trying to challenge this bishop on b4, but now I think it's time to trade it. Rook takes, and now queen takes on a7. There's so many ways to kill this position. I think you can even play something like, I think, rook to d1. Also pushing the pawn is actually a very strong move, but there's just something about Sasha. She likes just making the games, I don't know if she does it deliberately to torture her opponents, but she makes these games really, really long for nothing, in my opinion. But here, she played queen takes on a7, and the game continued. So queen to d7. Here, I think rook to c8 was played back, and now queen to d7 by Sasha. Queen to e8. Sasha traded the pawns, the rooks rather, and played knight to c3, activating this knight, bringing it to aid in the promotion of this pawn on c7. And now here knight to e7 was played. Knight to d5, offering the trade. Knight went to c8, covering the promotion square. But now knight takes on f6. Rook was played to e6, I think. And now knight to f1, and I think at some point here the game, Joyce Nyaruai resigned the game. I didn't get the entire game. There was there was something wrong about the PGN, so I couldn't know what moves were played. But this position is also completely winning for white. White is a piece up, and she has a passed pawn on c6 that's going to promote whether you like it or not. So yeah, creative game by Sasha. Sasha beat Nyaruai, and with this Sasha went on to actually clear the entire field. She finished on 9 out of 9 points. Just crazy, with a performance rating of 22, 2200, 22 something, I can't remember clearly, but it's actually a very good performance. This is an incredible performance. This, I think, goes up there in terms of the best nationals, the best Kenya nationals performances, I think, of all time. So with this, she regains her title. I think this is the second title that she won, and what a way to do it. I mean, she cleared the entire field, 9 out of 9. She actually won the game, won the tournament to the game to spare, but then she just, wanted to paint a good picture of her performances. So yeah, crazy game. I had said this before. There's a video I had made of Sasha Mongeli playing Newton Karemi, and I had said in that game, it was in the wake or maybe in the preparation of the nationals, and I said that she's going to be one very, very hard player to beat, because she plays, just her positional understanding and her understanding of chess is actually incredible. I'm just in awe. I usually try to learn off of her, and yeah, crazy stuff. So this was the game, Sasha versus Joyce Nyaruai. Hope you enjoyed it. Remind you maybe to subscribe if you haven't, comment on things you'd like to see more, and yeah, we are still working to buy a better webcam, because then my laptop's camera is not really that clear. But yeah, this was the game. Hope you really enjoyed it. I'm going to put a bunch of other games. Methu's game is next. Methu versus Gohil Mehul. I think that was also the decider in the open section. And yeah, we're all waiting for the day that we'll actually see players like Sasha Mongeli and Joyce Nyaruai challenge for for the car in the open section. So yeah, this was the game. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe.